edition of the WITSUP podcast. It is fantastic to see all of your friendly faces. I've got a feeling that welcome back intro, the "whoa" bit, gets longer each time I do it. I can't help it. As a fan of what was WWF, World Wrestling Federation, which now it's called something else, I think. It's been a while since I've watched any of that wrestling. Used to be a fan of Bret the Hitman Hart, big fan of the Ultimate Warrior and the Undertaker. I've clearly digressed. But anyway, that's where I get it from. The and in the blue corner, that kind of, anyway, doesn't matter. Moving on. Hope you're all doing well wherever you are in podcast or YouTube land, wherever you are on every corner of the globe, whether you're in the red corner or the blue corner. I've had 2 coffees this morning already. Okay, moving on. Today, we are chatting with Lauren Parker, who I feel like I've spent a heck of a load of time with recently. I was with her up at the National Cycling Championships in Ballarat, which is about 2 hours from my front door. Well, I mean, it's probably about an hour and 45, but you have to stop for coffee on the way, right? Although if it's taking 15 minutes to get a coffee, they need to work on it. That takes way too long. But clearly I digress. Again, that feels like that's the theme of this introduction. But it was really insightful spending that time with Lauren and her mate Brad as they prepared for both the Para time trial and the Para road race, all in an attempt for Lauren to be able to qualify for the Australian team in both of those events. And also she's gunning for gold in the Para Triathlon too. So I had the opportunity to spend some time with her. But obviously for me, it's not just about seeing her race and attempt the qualification, but just going behind the scenes and seeing how things get done. Anything from prepping her racing chair, to just that time spent before and after, the quiet time that she likes to spend by herself before they get into race ready mode was just really interesting. But anyway, I think it helped with this podcast as well because Lauren and I have known each other for quite a few years but haven't spent much quality time together. So it was a really good opportunity to do that. And then obviously that built our relationship to then be able to have a chat today on the podcast as well, which in my opinion really, really helps our guests to feel comfortable and open with the podcast. And that's what this platform's all about, is having those chats that you don't ordinarily get to have, particularly just at events. So anyway, let's get to it. My chat with Lauren Parker. Welcome to the I feel like I've spent way too much time with this athlete in the past week. I've been all up in her grill at the Road Nationals, but please welcome to the podcast, Lauren Parker.
Thanks for having me on here, Steph. Really looking forward to a chat. Another one. Well, I've been with you all week, but
The difference this time, though, is that we don't have Brad loitering around, annoying you, and stirring up shit. So it's just you.
You're lucky, because he was almost going to come and be here in the background. I'm like, oh no, you'll just make me laugh the whole time. Like, he always tries to make me laugh when I am trying to be serious. So,
Just so you know, laughing is A-OK on this podcast as well, and it will now be my goal to attempt to make you laugh.
Alrighty. I'm sure you can.
I'll do my best. So for those of you who don't know Lauren Parker, Lauren Parker was an able-bodied professional triathlete. Now, you correct me if I get any of the terminology wrong, or I guess any of the timeline wrong. But that's where I first met you. I actually distinctly remember you in Busso, and I've got a photo of you, and you're wearing, I think you had pink and yellow and white on your kit. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah. It was this pre-accident as an able-bodied. Yeah.
I remember the photo, Isn't it weird? Like I get to know people from their racing kits and cycling kits.
Yeah. Because I remember you at Busso as well. You're on the motorbike next to me because I was I led out of the water, and I didn't hold that lead for very long, but still, I'll claim it.
Own it. Yeah. So I remember that photo. I'll see if I can hunt it down as well. We'll try and show people what I'm actually talking about. But that I think I must work better with like visuals, like remembering things. I have a visual memory or what have you. But anyway, I think that's the first time I actually kind of met you, with me on a motorbike and you on a push bike at the front of the race in Busso. And, you know, you're on a great career trajectory in terms of being an able-bodied professional triathlete. And sorry, we've dived straight into this. But unfortunately in 2017, so almost 4 years ago now.
Almost,
right?
Yeah, April 18th, 4 years ago. Yeah, almost 4 years ago.
Yeah, wow. You're involved in an accident where you're not one, but two tires blew out on your bike. And as a result of the accident, you ended up as a paraplegic, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. So that's, and as we chat more, this is obviously not going to be the defining part of your story. This is just the introductory to how I know you through the world of triathlon. And since then, you have been crushing it in the para-triathlon game. And most recently, last week, you were attempting to qualify for the Paralympics, not only in triathlon, but you went to the cycling road nats and wanted to qualify for the TT and the road race in the hand cycle division. Have I summed that up okay so far?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, that's definitely the journey I've been on.
Yes. So can we go back to you, I guess, and we don't talk a whole lot about triathlon on this podcast because we want to get to know you as the person a lot more. But I feel like that's going to come as a result of talking about a few different pathways that you've been on. But back in the day, before your accident, what were your goals in the world of elite sport?
Yeah, well, I grew up as a swimmer. So from a very young age, I was involved in swimming and surf lifesaving. I competed in both, but my goals were all in swimming, and I wanted to make, the Olympics for swimming. That was my dream throughout my whole younger life. And I would swim like 16 kilometers a day, just training to try and be the best that I could be. And I qualified for the Olympic trials at age 14, but after that, I got sick with chronic fatigue and I was out for a year. And I tried to get back in swimming, but just the passion wasn't there anymore. So my goals changed, and I thought, I found out about triathlon. I did a triathlon with my school, and that's where the spark came to me. Like I just loved it. That's where I really wanted to get involved in triathlon, and I moved straight into triathlon pretty quickly from being a swimmer my whole life, and it happened super fast. I competed in my first triathlon in my hometown of Newcastle, and I look back at the photos now and think, oh, what was I thinking? What was I like? I was just wearing normal joggers, and I had this old little bike, and but I just had fun, and but I was spotted by an elite triathlon coach at that event, and he wanted to coach me because he thought that I had some potential, obviously seeing me swim and stuff like that. And I started with him, and like within a year I got my pro license in short distance triathlon, and I found myself traveling around the world a little bit with that. So I
love how understated you were. Like, oh yeah, I was talent scouted and traveled the globe. Sorry, carry on.
So fast forward a little bit. I had so many injuries from when I first started, in the sport. I've up until, before my accident and from when I first started, I had 8 stress fractures, 5 in my shins and 3 in my femur. So each one of those was a battle in itself, trying to get over each injury and, focus on my training. And my run was always my weakest point, I guess, because I never had a full run prep with every triathlon that I did. So I'm fast forward a little bit. I did my first half Ironman distance at 70.3, and I again fell in love with that distance straight away because I'm more of an endurance athlete, and I just love the challenge. And then I decided to just take my run training. How do I explain? So I tried to take control of my own run training and not have a coach just for running. And I decided to just take it slow and just I was running like 4Ks a session to start with, and I just wanted to increase it slowly. So I started not getting as injured as when I first started triathlon. So that's when I was in the Ironman 70.3 distance. I won my first race, I think it was at 70.3 Port Macquarie. That was when I won my first age group race. And in 2014, I did my first Ironman. And again, fell in love with the sport even more. That's where my passion is now, is with Ironman distance. I did my first one at Port Macquarie Ironman, and I won that event. And I qualified for the World Championships at Kona. Sorry, so this is a very long story.
No, this is what we're here for. We've got all the time in the world. So sorry, this is when you're in the category 25 to 29?
Yeah.
18 to 20. Yeah. Okay.
25 to 29. And so I'd been through 8 stress fractures already. And then I was training for Kona in 2014. And 6 weeks out, I was on a training ride, and it was one morning, it was like 4:30 in the morning, it was dark, and I ran over a dead kangaroo on the side of the road, and I broke my elbow. So this is 6 weeks out from Kona. And yeah.
How Australian is that? You ran over a dead kangaroo.
Yeah. I'm hopeless. Anyway. So I broke my elbow, and but I still had Kona in 6 weeks' time. I'm not going to pull out of one of the most iconic, triathlons in the world. So I decided to strap my arm up to my body and swim with one arm. And then I was riding. I did the next 6 weeks riding on a trainer and running on a treadmill with my arm strapped to me. And then I got to the race, obviously not with a perfect prep by all means, but I got 10th in my age group in 2014. So then fast forward to 2015, I qualified for Kona again in 2015. And this time I had a better prep, but in my whole time of doing triathlon, I've never had a full run prep just because of injuries. And but I knew in the back of my mind, and just from how I know I could run, that if I had a good run prep, my run would be really strong, because I can just keep going all day at the one pace kind of thing. And but I got to 2015 Kona, and I almost put a perfect race together, but I was leading the race pretty much the whole day until like the last, 6 kilometers, and one of the other girls just zoomed past me, and I certainly couldn't keep up. But I got second at Kona in 2015 in my age group, with not a full run prep again. And then straight after that, for 2016, I turned professional in Ironman distance, and that my goal was all for Ironman. I had so much passion for it, and I just loved Kona. That's where, I just wanted to become world champ basically, and You know, I had that belief that I could one day do that, and
Can
I
I
raced.
ask, sorry, can I just ask, at that point, you're obviously, and the way you speak, you're obviously a massive triathlon fan yourself. You're not just in it, you're a fan. At that point, do you remember who your idols were, who you looked up to, who you wanted to be like?
Yeah, Chrissy Wellington. Yeah,
Of course.
she was one of my big idols. And actually, it was moving away from that a little bit. When I had my accident, I was in hospital and I was going through my voicemail messages, and I had a missed call from a number I didn't know. Anyway, I listened to the message, and the girl on the other end said, "Oh, hi, I'm Chrissy Wellington. I heard about your accident," and I had to replay it again because I'm like, I didn't think I heard correctly. I'm like, did I hear this correctly? It's Chrissy Wellington. Like, it called me and found my number and decided to call me. Anyway, it was. So I'm like, I missed a call. No, I need to ring it back. Anyway, I rang it back, and it was like so surreal, like that my idol had phoned me up in hospital to, say she's thinking of me, heard about my accident. So, yeah, that was a great moment.
A phone call. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't just a tweet or an Instagram
No, it was
message.
a phone call. Yeah.
That's
It was so
pretty
good.
special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very special. So back to, I turned pro in 2016. I completed some races. I think I did Ironman Switzerland as a pro, but I would train for the last 4 years of doing Ironman before my accident. I would live and train in Mallorca in Spain. Just because I hated winter in Australia. So every winter time I'd go to Mallorca and just chase the summer every year. And it was the greatest place to train, lots of mountains for climbing on the bike, and, swim training in the Mediterranean. You couldn't ask for anything better than that.
Yeah, nice.
So that's my second home, but it was quite easy to go to races from Mallorca, like races in Europe. But then my whole goal for that whole 2016 period was being like fully prepared and having the best preparation for Port Macquarie Ironman in 2017, because I'd never in my whole career raced an Ironman or triathlon where I'd been fully prepared and had a full run prep. And for this preparation for Port Macquarie, I really, for that whole 2016 period, I took it slow for running and slowly built up. And I got to the point where I was doing, speed in my sessions, which I'd never been able to do because my legs would always break down with injuries. But I got some good volume in. I had, it ended up being the best preparation I'd ever had. And I was, on my way to racing an Ironman with a full preparation and belief that I'd had the perfect preparation, and I was ready to really show to myself what I could do in an Ironman. So I was obviously training in 2017, and 2 weeks out from Port Macquarie, I had my accident. And I think back now, wishing that, I wish it happened 2 weeks after Port Macquarie so that I would know what I could actually do when I was fully prepared for an Ironman race. But that obviously didn't happen. So had my accident. It was a Tuesday morning. I'd been in Sydney the weekend before, actually, and I was there with my mum. It was a long weekend, Easter long weekend in April, and I was thinking to myself, and I was talking to my mum, maybe we should just stay another night. And this was on the Monday, and I'm like, nah, I can't. I got to get back to training. I've got a hard ride session the next day, so we decided not to stay in Sydney and come home. Anyway, that next morning is when I had my accident, and it was a perfect day. It was going to be my last hard training ride before tapering down for Port Macquarie. and I was on my last 2-minute effort of the ride. I was training with my best friend, Brad Fernley. He was right beside me. We were doing the last 2-minute effort of the session before going back to where our cars were parked and pretty much heading off to Port Macquarie. But both my tyres burst and I went flying into a guardrail at 45k an hour, and that changed everything in a split second. I broke my shoulder, broken ribs, punctured lungs, broken pelvis, broken back, and all that can be repairable, but it was a spinal cord that couldn't be repaired, and that left me instantly paralyzed from the waist down. And the cause of the accident was actually, the rubber that goes across the road that counts the cars, that had been taken out, like that rubber, the thin
like
strip of rubber.
It's like a tube type of thing.
Yeah, that had been taken out, but they left the 2 screws in the road that's supposed to hold it down. They left those in the road sticking out, so they were loose. So as I rode over them, both my tires punctured straight away. So I had no control. I was on the aero bars, and I just went straight into the guardrail. And when we went after my accident and after healing and everything, I went back to the accident site, and the guardrail was only there for 100 meters. Everywhere else along the whole highway, there was no guardrail. So if the guardrail wasn't there, I would have just rolled in the grass, and I'd be fine. I'd probably have a broken arm and still be like, oh, my race is ruined and everything like that. It's all about perspective, right? But yeah, that obviously didn't happen, and my life changed in a split second, and I didn't know it at the time, but I thought I would just be going to hospital, they'd fix me and I'd be walking out, but that wasn't the case. I went straight into surgery to get my spine fused together, and that very same day I was told that I would never walk again for the rest of my life. And those are the most devastating news that anyone could hear, especially at 28 years old and being so active and an athlete. Like, I thought my life was over. I thought that I had nothing to live for, and that was just on that day. And it's funny thinking about it now. That first night in the hospital bed after becoming paralyzed from the waist, it felt like I was trapped, like I couldn't move at all. And if I wanted to get up, I couldn't, and I was in so much pain, not just from the surgery, but my accident left me with really bad nerve pain from my waist down to my feet. And that sounds weird because I can't feel my legs, but it's all the nerves were fully damaged. So everywhere through my body where it was paralyzed, I was just in pain. And that pain felt like and feels like to this day, and I've still got it, and it's gotten worse over the last 4 years as well. But that pain feels like I'm being stabbed with needles everywhere, or like my whole body is on fire, literally. Like, it's absolute torture. And I've had 5 spinal surgeries since that day to try and reduce the pain, but nothing works. There's no cure for it. I've tried all the medications that are available, and nothing works for my pain because I've got it so severe. So yeah, right now I'm in absolute torture from my chest down to my feet, and it's a pain that I thought never existed before my accident. It's just the worst, and I think that's the worst part about being in a wheelchair and not being able to walk is the pain. I'd rather the pain go than ever walk again.
Well, I didn't realize it was still that intense. So even you sitting here talking to me right now, you're in pain.
Yep. 24/7, it doesn't go away. And I think that's the hardest part, because people look at me and, I've got a smile on my face. I'm achieving all that I'm achieving. and people think that it's all well and good. I've overcome such adversity of not being able to walk, but it's the pain that people don't see. And it's really hard, like every day. It's hard mentally, I guess, to put a front on and to keep smiling and everything. But when I come home, it's like I can not have to try and be happy, if that makes sense. Because of the pain, it's just terrible. And so that very first night, I thought my life was over. I wouldn't be able to get back to my sport ever again. Everything was going through my mind. And for the next 6 months after that, I was in hospital and rehab, basically learning how to deal with being in a wheelchair for the rest of my life and how to live a new life. And yeah, it was a long journey, long, hard journey, and I'm still on still hard every single day.
I've got a lot of questions, which that's what a podcast is for, right? But when you say, and I absolutely understand it, that you put a front on when you're out in public and then you get home and you don't want to put that front on and you're in pain and it's unrelenting. What makes you feel like you have to put a front on? Is it to make other people feel comfortable about your situation, or is it, what makes you say that?
I guess people don't really understand the pain, and if I was looked unhappy all the time, that wouldn't be very good, I guess, from being out in public. And it's really hard to explain that one, because I can tell so many people about the pain, but they just don't understand. And I wouldn't if I was able-bodied and someone was telling me, because I never thought this pain existed. It's just I feel like that I should be out in public and be happy all the time, because people can't see the pain, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It makes sense, but I think in the same breath, like you say, I will never understand it. I can empathize, but I will never fully understand.
That's a doorbell. Maybe. It's all good.
How's that for timing as well?
Yeah.
Getting quite deep now, but let's the doorbell ring. we need to tell everyone that we interview that they need to put a sign up at their front door as well, like recording, do not disturb.
Yeah.
So since the accident, and obviously you've had to do a lot of rehabbing, and that is probably going to continue for a long time. How much work have you had to put into working on the mental side of things? And I don't mean the mental side of things of being focused on getting to the Olympics or Paralympics. I mean the mental side of, I guess, focusing on other things so that the pain isn't always at the forefront of your mind, or the challenges of get the picture.
I know.
What do you want to yell at them or go out to them? And if you need to go, we can press pause.
No, it's all good. I should just go.
What was I saying? So and even the mental side of what we were just talking about before, in terms of how you approach public life as opposed to how you deal with things at home, and I assume being a lot more vulnerable in front of your best mate Brad and family members. How much work have you to put into the mental side of things?
Yeah, so much, but at the same time, I got straight back into training so quickly that I've never really dealt with what's happened to me like fully, I guess, because I've been so focused on my sport. And I guess I try to block it out a little bit because I don't want to deal with it maybe. But it has been a huge challenge mentally. Some days, like, I think that, I still have nothing to live for. Like, I think about the future too much and being in a chair, not finding, getting married and having kids, for example. I always think of that, and I think that, no one would want me because I'm in a chair. Like, everything runs through your mind when you've had such a life-changing accident. But having my best friend Brad with me through all those times has been a lifesaver, and also having my sport has been a lifesaver after my accident, because if I didn't have that to go back to, I can honestly say I probably wouldn't be here today after my accident. So that was definitely a lifesaver. But just dealing with the pain every single day, I've constantly got to be busy doing something to take my mind off the pain, even though it's still fully there. I just have to keep busy. And sometimes even that I wish I didn't have to do, because after training I just want to come home and just relax, but I can't because I'm always in pain. When I go to bed every night, I'm in pain, and sometimes I'm screaming, and then I'll wake up still in pain. Like, I used to think pain was temporary. You think of that when you're in training, like you've got a 20-minute hard effort, but it's temporary. You know that in 20 minutes the pain's isn't going to be there. But for me, the pain is there every second of every day, and it's not going away, not until there's a cure. And I've always said, and I'm just speaking honestly, that I can't live with this pain for the rest of my life. So yeah, that's it's really hard. That's the hardest thing to live with, is the pain. And then on the other hand, dealing with not ever walking again. So I try and keep my mind busy and focused on training, so that I don't have to sometimes deal with those thoughts. Yeah.
I'll be completely honest with you. I don't know how to respond to that, because what can I say? I'm so sorry that this is still happening. But sorry doesn't help you. How do you like people to treat you?
Just normal. Just like like I've had people come up to me feeling nervous to say hello to me, or they don't know what to say, but I just want people to treat me normal, like I was an able-bodied athlete or person. Like, I'm no different. Like, well, I am, but yeah, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I just want them to treat me like a normal person.
Yeah.
I don't mind talking about anything. Like, people don't have to be nervous to say hello, or to ask the right questions, because any question's fine. Like, yeah.
You actually, and I don't want this to sound offensive either, but you're a lot more vulnerable and open than I was anticipating. I knew you'd be comfortable talking to me, but I didn't realize how really vulnerable and open you would be with me, and I appreciate that, and I hope that on some level it helps to talk things through out loud. I hope.
Sure. Yeah. And life's all about perspective. Like, before my accident, I was, for pretty much since I was 16, I was dealing with like eating disorders and depression, and I had my own battles with mental health. But, you know, I think back now, think, what was I doing? I had everything to be happy about, you know. I was living my life, training for the sport that I loved. But it's only when something, you know, worse happens, or, you know, obviously my accident, that you really see the perspective. And if tomorrow I started walking again, I would live so differently. I'd just be grateful for so many more things, for opportunities that I have. Like, I had my accident, and like, I would read, like, on social media that like, people complaining about little things, or like, I'd go to the coffee shop and someone would complain about their coffee taking too long to be made, or they're going to be late for work. Like, all those little things, I'm like, you don't understand, you don't get it. Don't. Yeah, it's all about perspective, everything in life.
Yeah. And those kind of stories, do they still make you angry?
Oh, they don't make me angry. That was just like, I just thought to myself, you know, people take things for granted. And I know if I had my time over, I would definitely try not to take things for granted, because, I mean, I was probably the same. I'd complain about little things. Oh, it's raining today, I can't, you know, I've got to ride 5 hours on a trainer. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's funny that you choose raining as an example. And this is a tangent, but that's what this is all about. I remember my best mate, she's got 3 kids, and you know, when it's raining, you tend to say to kids, oh, it's crappy weather outside. Or if you're a good parent, you probably don't swear in front of your child, but whatever. You know, it's crappy weather outside, it's a crappy day, or you know, something like that. But my best mate would always say, no, it's not a crappy day. It's raining, which means the trees can grow and the flowers grow and all this kind of stuff. And that message has really stuck with me, and it sort of grounds me when I do get worked up about, you know, shitty weather or this or that. And it's like, well, hang on, perspective and reasons for things. And I know that's very different to your situation, but just that popped into my head when you talked about, you know, the rainy days. And like you say, a bunch of triathletes complaining that they can't go outside for a 5-hour bike ride, and they have to do it inside in their beautiful house in front of the TV and watch Netflix. Is life that bad? I want to go back, because you did sort of touch on this, that you essentially got stuck back into your training as a para-triathlete very quickly, because it was almost and again, correct me if I'm using the wrong terms, or if I'm not quite picking up what you're saying, but it was almost an escape for you, probably physically and mentally and emotionally. It was something that I noticed with you very early on, and it was not from a judgmental place, but I did think, wow, she's dove straight back into it. I do wonder how you're managing it, because obviously life-altering situation. Do you remember those early days in terms of, I guess, the stages of grief? You know, being angry, you know, at what point did you accept that you weren't going to walk again and stop fighting that side of the things, and, you know, were more comfortable in being a para-triathlete, not an able-bodied triathlete? Do you remember back then?
Yeah, I guess I probably still haven't even accepted it. I got straight back into training and blocked everything else out, so I didn't have to deal with it. I'll go back to when I was in rehab, and I definitely did fight when I found out about paratriathlon. I definitely was excited that I could get back to the sport that I once loved, or the sport that ruined my life. You could see it both ways, but it definitely was an escape, I guess, when I first started. But I'll go back to rehab, and I was this one day I was really looking forward to getting into the pool for the very first time, and it was only a 15-meter rehab pool, and I thought that, yes, I can actually get in the pool and do something that I loved. I mean, I grew up as a swimmer. I trained 20 years to swim fast and 16 Ks a day in the pool. So I thought that I'd get in and be able to swim. And I got in the water, and the physio gave me the noodle, and I soon chucked that away because there's no way I'm holding onto a noodle. I put my cap and goggles on, and I said to Brad, yes, I'm going to swim. Let's see what I can do. And I pushed off the wall with my arm, and basically I couldn't put two strokes together. My whole body was sinking, and I tried again, putting one stroke over and the other stroke, and it just didn't happen. And I paddled over to the end of the pool, and that's the moment where that's the defining moment, is this day, and what I had to decide right then and there. And other than it being the second most devastating day of my life since my accident, because not only had I lost my legs, but I also lost my swimming ability that I trained so hard for. So Brad walked to the end of the pool to see me, and basically he said I had two options. One option was to go get out of the water, go straight back to the hospital room, shut the doors, and don't do anything with my life, or stay in the water and continue to try to swim and not give up. And it was really hard, but I chose that second option, to stay in the pool and not give up. And by the end of the hour rehab session, I swam 3 laps of the rehab pool. Wasn't far, but it was just the choice that I made right then and there to not give up and to show myself that it was possible. Yes, I couldn't swim properly, but it was just getting through it mentally that I got through 3 laps, and this was the start of, and I really showed to myself that, with the belief in yourself, that anything is possible. So I got out of the pool that day and found out about Triathlon, and from there, that's when it all started. The crazy life of being a para-triathlete. And I guess going back to your question, and whether I'm comfortable being a para-triathlete, obviously I'd rather be successful as an able-bodied athlete, and I don't think that I am comfortable with being a para-triathlete, even though I'm achieving what I'm achieving, which is great. Like, I put, to have the goals and that I have in the sport, and to have the success that I've had so quickly, I'm not comfortable. I guess after living 28 years of being an able-bodied athlete, I'm still not comfortable of being classed as a para-athlete, because it's hard to explain, but I worked so hard to try and be a successful able-bodied athlete that it's really hard to see myself. Like, I see myself now as like I'm broken, like my body doesn't work, but I'm doing everything I can to have goals and everything I can to achieve those goals. And I guess that's something I am grateful for, because it could have been so much worse. Like my accident, I could have had a worse injury and not be able to get back into my sport. So again, it comes back to perspective, and that's where I try to choose to focus my thoughts and look at the positives rather than the negatives in life. That, I am grateful that I can still do sport and be fit and have goals and have triathlon be, you know, a Paralympic sport, and you know, to have the opportunities that I've had, I'm so grateful for. I guess I've just got in my mind that I just need to move on with my life and do the best that I can for as long as I can.
And obviously easier said than done, moving on with your life.
It is, easier said than done. But I got the inspiration for triathlon back again through Bob Babbitt. Through the Challenged Athletes Foundation. He's the most amazing man. What he's done in the sport and with the Challenged Athletes Foundation, he got me on his radio station back in rehab, and basically right there on the phone, he said, "This is where it starts at the Challenged Athletes Foundation triathlon event," which was going to be in October of that year. I was still in rehab. So he invited me to this triathlon event, and I asked the rehab center if I could have just 5 days away to go over there to be part of this great event and to come back. And they basically said, no, I could only have 3 days. Well, I can't get there and back in 3 days. So I actually signed myself out right then, jumped on a plane, and went over to the amazing event that, you know, it really opened my eyes. I thought that I would, you know, turn up and tell people my story or what happened about my accident. But from what I saw 500 other people and athletes that were worse off than me, had worse accidents than me, but they were all here for this weekend. And there was one thing that I saw, that everyone had a smile on their face, yet they'd been through so much. There was people there that had their legs blown off at war. Like, there was little kids running around without any arms and legs, just on their stumps. Like, it really was eye-opening. And that's where I thought, you know, if these beautiful people can participate in this triathlon this weekend, then, and if they can be happy, then so can I. You know, I can get back to my sport. I can be happy again. And that's where I got so inspired, and I returned home and that's when I got straight into my triathlon training. So yeah, and that was the best decision that I ever made, was signing myself out of rehab, because it was so negative in there. Like, I had a physio tell me that I need to get used to living the rest of my life in a wheelchair, because I will never be an athlete again. Like, I was told that in rehab. So yeah, I proved them wrong.
Wow, it's so interesting that to that physio, it was probably very much a throwaway line to you. That was not just a game changer, a life-changing comment for you.
It sure was. And well, at the time I kind of believed it, because at the time I was in a wheelchair, and I didn't know that I could get back into the sport that I loved. And I thought my life was over. And so I kind of believed it. But then, everything changed when I found out that I could get back into sport, and there was these great opportunities that lie ahead, that I could set goals again and achieve goals in the sport again. So that's what I chose to focus on.
See, even just that message for me, that's why we do what we do. Whether it be highlighting women in sport, it's to showcase what you can achieve, and then people who can see that. And it's that saying of, if you can't see it, you can't be it. And that was similar with you. You didn't know what you could potentially be capable of. In fact, you were actually told that you couldn't be what in your heart you wanted to be. until you were shown it. And obviously that's not just sport, that's, you know, the life as well. Oh gosh. Again, and you said this, it's a sport that broke you but also saved you.
Yeah.
I wonder what the difference would have been prior. I wonder if you would have found para-triathlon after the accident if you didn't do triathlon before the accident. And odds are possibly not.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I wasn't involved in triathlon before. But, you know, if I wasn't involved in triathlon before, I would still be walking.
Yeah. Just on that as well, very early on when we started the chat, you mentioned a couple of things that it was very much surrounded by the what ifs. You said that if you had stayed, what if you stayed in Sydney? You wouldn't have been on that ride. What if the council or whoever weren't counting cars that day? You know, there's a lot of what ifs. Do you still think what ifs, or is that a thing of the past for you thinking that way?
I try not to think about the what ifs anymore. Like, I rode up that same highway for the 10 years, or the whole of my triathlon training, every weekend through the week. Like, I'd ride past my accident spot so much, so often. And I think about, you know, what if I was just 1 millimeter to the left, I would have missed these screws, or but I really try not to dwell on that because there's nothing I can do about it. It's happened, and I think that I believe that everything happens for a reason, and you might think that, you know, that's I guess what's happened to me, like, why would I say that? But I think that, you know, if I had my accident for a reason, that I really want to make the most of what I can do for others. And I've found that, you know, from my story, I really want to inspire as many people as I can, you know, of all walks of life, not just kids or people with disabilities, but, you know, everyone goes through adversity. And I think that if I've had my accident for a reason, that's the reason that I was here for, is to make a difference to other people's lives through my story and adversity, and overcoming, letting people know that if you believe in yourself, that anything is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to ask, who is Brad to you? Let's talk about old mate who's always by your side. Who is Brad?
Pain in the ass. Actually, I can't feel that. Hey, I can't feel a pain in the ass, but
I was going to get onto your sarcastic sense of humor, which I freaking love. For the record, quite a few times Lauren has tried to catch me out, and I'm sure she does it to everyone else. What was it? You were pinning on your number the other day, which kind of goes on your thigh, was it?
Yeah,
yeah. And she's pinning it on, and she goes, like she'd stabbed herself in the leg. And I'm like, you've tried this with me before. I know you can't feel it, but I love your sense of humor. It's amazing.
When I was in hospital initially, they'd give me a needle in my leg, and I'd be like, and the nurse would be like, what? Yeah.
Do you know, just off tangent again, Frankie's got this little like drill thing, plastic, obviously, it's a toy. And when you push down on it, the drill bit sort of closes in on itself, so it looks like it's going into your leg. So I did that to myself, and I pretended to drill my leg and went, completely freaked her out. I'm like, oh yeah, she probably doesn't quite understand that it disappears. But now she does, and she does it to I actually posted a video of it the other day. She does it to everyone. She brings it out and then screams as she pushes it into their legs. So I also think maybe I've listened to one too many true crime podcasts when I was pregnant, and it makes me wonder whether she's a psychopath. Anyway, who is Brad?
Yeah.
Other than a pain in the ass.
So I met Brad 13 odd years ago when I first started triathlon. I joined a triathlon squad, and he was in that squad with his son Bryce. And he saw me swim for the first time, and obviously I could swim pretty well because I was leading the lane. I got told to lead the lane, and he's like, "Oh, what? The new girl's leading the lane?" Anyway, that's how we met. And he saw potential in me, and he really wanted to help, I guess. So throughout my whole able-bodied triathlon career, he helped me, and without him, I wouldn't have got, so far in the sport. He helped me physically, mentally. He helped me get overseas to race. But we developed a really great friendship, and he's like a dad to me. Like I didn't grow up with a dad, so he stepped in like that father figure. But we just clicked straight away, and he's my best friend. He's everything to me. Without him, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have got back to doing the sport that I loved after my accident. I can say I honestly wouldn't be here. But he's everything. He makes me laugh. He's always there by my side. He's never walked away. I had my accident, and he's never walked away. He endured almost as much as me. He was right beside me when I had my accident, and he heard my body go into that guardrail, and he was the person standing over me when I was laying on the ground, and my body was in the most awkward position, he said. And every single day he's been by my side, and that's what best friends are for. And he's the ultimate. He's the greatest person. Everyone needs a Brad Fernley in their life, and I'm very lucky that he's in my life. Without him giving me advice on everything in life, not just training, but how to get through things. He's got so much wisdom and knowledge, and he was a successful athlete back in his day, and he knows how to overcome and how to push on and be a successful athlete. And he just gives me so much, and I'm so thankful that I have him as a best friend. So that's what Brad is to me. Yeah.
Now you have to say something obnoxious about him because you've just talked him up heaps, and it must.
I know I have, hey. And he most of the time he's that pain in the ass, but we get on so well, and I'm probably a pain in the ass to him, but we just get on so well. It's probably not a bad thing I can say about him.
Yeah, it's very obvious. You spend 5 minutes with you two, and he to me it appears that he knows the right things to say because he knows you so well. But also vice versa. You clearly know him so well and know how to push his buttons and deliberately push his buttons. So it's almost like this best friend / sibling, like it's like you've known each other forever is what I mean by the sibling side of things. Incredible. So he's your family. For sure, he's 100%. I do want to talk about, because clearly with being an elite athlete there's a certain level of stubbornness involved. Would you quite comfortably say that you're a stubborn person?
Oh, very. And I think Brad had backed me up there for sure.
Were you always like that as a kid? Do you remember being a stubborn kid?
I think so. I think I've always been like that. I guess, being an athlete, I don't know. I was just so focused, and I would never be sidetracked by anyone. I'd always feel like I was right. Nah. Nah, but yeah, I am stubborn.
And you mentioned, which I wasn't aware of, but you grew up without a dad. So single mum.
Well, I had a dad up until I was 12, but they separated, and I haven't really seen him much since. He hasn't really wanted to be in my life, so it was always my mum there. My mum took me to training every morning at 4:00 in the morning. We'd be up. Oh, did you hear that? That was
I
my
did.
phone. That's actually Brad. See, he's being a pain.
Of course.
He knows I'm in a podcast. So mum took me to all sport. Like, I had the best opportunities when it came to sport. I mean, I did so much at a young age. I did swimming, surf life saving, tennis, netball. I tried everything, and I also did like dancing, as a little girl would. But I did so much, and it's because of her that I grew up as an athlete without her taking me to training every day and letting me enjoy the things that I love. I guess I wouldn't be an athlete, and I wouldn't have the athlete sort of mindset and I wouldn't know what it dedication and it taught me so much through the swimming years and pushing my body to the limits and having. I always love a challenge, and it taught me dedication, commitment, and you get so many life skills from growing up as an athlete. So that's what I'm really thankful for.
Yeah. And obviously, well, first of all, it's your father's loss that he's not in your life. Second of all, I assume there's a lot that you've learned from seeing your mum and being close to your mum, throughout your teenage years. It would have taught you a lot about strength. Yeah,
for sure. And she's worked so hard all her life to give me the best opportunities that I've had. And then obviously Brad stepping in as a best friend, father figure, also gave me hope in my future, and that there are good people in the world that really want to help you. Yeah.
It's about sifting through and finding those people, which unfortunately isn't as easy as what you'd like to think or wish it was.
Yeah, for sure. Like after my accident, I lost 5 really good girlfriends because I guess they thought it was too hard, with me being in a chair. And I think that's where you really find out who your friends are, is when adversity happens, who your friends are and who aren't, like who are the true friends. And since my accident, I've formed a few great friendships, but Brad and I have just become closer and closer in friendship, and that's what true friendship is he sums it up. Like, he didn't walk away. It might have been so easy to walk away, but he's lived it to try and give me the best opportunities in life since my accident. He's been by my side every day, and that's what true friendship is.
Yeah.
So I really found that out after my accident, after losing some great friendships that I've had for most of my life.
It's a shitty way to find out. Yeah, that's for sure. But like you say, the silver lining is honing in on those true relationships, even though he's a massive friend but a massive pain in the ass. Yeah. I've seen it. Yeah. It's fact.
Yeah.
I'm really aware that we've been going for about an hour, and I hate wrapping this up because there's so many more things to talk to you about. And unfortunately, it has been a lot about the accident. But there's so many things to have learnt and to talk about as an offset from the accident. So I hope you don't mind that it's been really focused on that. But I feel like we have learnt a lot about you along the way. But before I let you go, I would love to find out, I mean, I know because I was there last week, but I'd love for you to sort of explain to people what your goals are this year, in particular, because of the Paralympics. Fingers crossed they go ahead. But I guess in the grand scheme of things, what are your goals?
So obviously I've got Tokyo in August, and the big goal there is to get the gold medal in the paratriathlon, which I've qualified for unofficially qualified for the paratriathlon. But I'm also, during COVID, I decided, well, why not give myself another challenge? And that was, I decided to try and qualify for the hand cycling events at Tokyo. So that's what I'm in the process of trying to do, and why I was in Ballarat last week at the cycling nationals. But it's really hard trying to qualify because all the international athletes can't be at the races. So I'm unable to race any of the other hand cyclists that I would be racing at Tokyo. So I have to qualify through my data, like my power output, my speed, my times. And Cycling Australia have to put that into their system and compare me to the current hand cycling world champion to her data. And basically for me to qualify, I need to beat the current world champion's data, and that's how I'll be selected for the team. I need to be a gold medal potential for me to be selected, which is super difficult. But before last week, I was ranked sixth in the world. Now I'm ranked third. So I still have a bit to go, but I've got more my last chance at the end of March up in Brisbane to try and qualify and get that top spot. But it's a huge challenge. But yeah, my goal is hopefully I'll have 3 events at Tokyo and 3 gold medals. And then the big goal is to go back to Kona 6 weeks after Tokyo, and that is where my passion lies, is in Ironman. And
this
I really
year you want to be in Kona.
Sorry? This
year you want to be racing in Kona.
So that's what I was going to do last year before everything got postponed. But obviously it's still up in the air whether the race will go ahead or not. But if it goes ahead, I'll be racing Kona, and I race there twice as an able-bodied athlete. I want to race there again as a para-athlete and to see what I'm capable of. And then I have obviously more goals. I want to get to Paris in 2024 at the Paralympics, and hopefully keep going to 2028. So I've got, some big goals. I want to defend my world title in paratriathlon again as well. So,
I love it.
I want to do triathlon for as long as I can.
Yeah.
For as long as my body lets me.
Yeah. So as an audience, what can we do to help you achieve your goals? What can we do? How can we support?
Oh, I don't know. That's a hard question. I don't know.
It's all about hard questions here. Do you appreciate shout outs on social media? We got a lot of love when we posted a few photos of you up at the Road Nats. Does that help? Do you read them? Does that spur you on? Yeah, for sure. I mean, I read everything, all the comments that come through on social media. They definitely keep me motivated and inspire me to keep pushing on and keep working hard to reach my goals. So for sure, I'd love for everyone to follow my journey and on social media. And I'm so grateful for the support I've already had over the last 4 years. It's been so amazing to read all the beautiful comments that come through all the time. Like,
that does keep me motivated and keeps me thinking positive. And yeah, so it definitely helps if people follow me and follow my journey on on my Instagram. Lauren Parker 2127 is my Instagram. But
Awesome.
for sure.
Mate, you're an inspiration, but I don't mean that in the you're inspiring, the fluffy kind of response. You know what I'm saying? You're inspiring because you're real. You've been extremely vulnerable in this chat. And I think, to me, the most inspiring thing is that by you being so vulnerable and open, it will help other people. No matter what. Like you say, you're not here to inspire just kids with disabilities. It's anyone who can take anything from your story, be it a small piece of inspiration or a big piece of inspiration. That in itself can help change other people's lives. So that, for me, is why you're inspiring. And yeah, I cannot thank you enough for your honesty and vulnerability.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks so much for having me on WITSUP. I'm super appreciative, and I've really enjoyed sharing my story and a little part of my story. So thank you. I'm really glad that I can inspire people and help motivate people, I guess, in their own lives.
You're a legend. Thank you. And we will obviously be following you over the coming weeks and months to see how the qualification process goes for the Paralympics. But regardless of what happens in the cycling, unofficially, we will see you at Tokyo for the para-triathlon.
You will, for sure. Fingers crossed. Awesome. It goes ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. You better get back to Brad and answer all of his questions that I'm sure he's got for you.
Yeah.
And we will catch up with you again, hopefully soon.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Steph.